Welcome to Beyond the Backlog, where we look at thrilling tales of gaming triumphs, both past and present, exploring the strategies, challenges, and unforgettable moments that shape the ever-evolving landscape of our digital adventures. I'm Nick.
And I'm Zack.
And today we thought, you know what, we've said when we were talking about our monthly games, we have like our 12 and 12s or whatever type of challenge list that we want to do for each specific year. So you know what, let's take a quick little episode and let's talk about them. So we each have 12 games to beat in 12 months, different kinds of themes. On my note, I have 12 games, 12-ish / games that I've had on my backlog forever. Once I'm like, I really should play this, or I've tried and couldn't get into it, then I'm like, you know what? These are going to be the ones that I'm going to beat. And now that it's in an episode, I can't remove them.
You're locking yourself in.
I have to lock myself in and then not go by the end of the year. Nope, sorry, didn't beat it.
It's okay. That's what I needed, is because my set of 12 is all RPGs, because I'm pretty proudly aware of the fact that I don't play a lot of RPGs, and I did want to kind of get into the growing list of them that I have and give a few a shot, and maybe try and pace myself at like one per month, because I feel like that's about how much RPGing I can handle.
Oh, absolutely. Depending on how long they are as well, the ones that you go with, they're going to be a fair amount of your time. But if we want, we can kind of go through, name maybe 3, and then we switch off to 3 just to get an idea of some of them. We'll go with my first 3. We've talked about 2 of them. Whether or not they've already been released when this episode drops, who knows? We're still kind of flying by the seat of our pants with this. My January game was Animal Crossing New Horizons, and that was just, I got really into it. I played with my family. 5 or 6 of us, we would go and we'd play, visit islands, do all of the turnips, figure out which place had the best turnip pricing, and then went off to do all that. And then you just kind of fall out with some games like that, right? If you don't play it for a little bit, and they're games that you're supposed to like, oh, I should pop on for 10, 15 minutes, got to catch some fish, got to do my dailies. When you fall off, it's really hard to get back on. So I was like, you know what, let's finish it. I counted finishing as getting my house complete. I did that. You don't want to know how much time that took?
I do want to
know. Not a lot. I was pretty well at the end, and I just didn't know. Then we've got Baldur's Gate 3 was another one, because I had bought that game because a bunch of my friends were playing it, and I partially didn't want them to always have to spoiler tag themselves. Like, they had gotten through it and beaten it a lot earlier than me. And it's like, oh, but, you know, Nick's still in Act 1, or Nick's not really doing much of anything with it, but I'm still going to beat it. So it was nice. That was my February game. It was really nice just to beat that. Great game. Highly recommended. I haven't decided what game I'm going to do yet for March. It's most likely going to be Zelda 2, because I am a huge Zelda fan. There's very few ones that I haven't beat or beat multiple times. Zelda 2 is one of them, because I never had it really growing up, and it's kind of the black sheep in terms of style.
Oh, so you're obviously going to do it on original hardware, right? With no save states whatsoever.
I have it. I could.
Do not recommend.
I don't think I'm going to. I'm probably going to go on the Switch Online and do it that way. But
I love Zelda 2, but it's hard to jump into for the first time.
It's really curious that they hadn't quite figured out what made Zelda work. And they were like, you know what, let's just do something different.
And then along came Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, and here we are, 2 of our favorite all-time games.
Yep, and they're pretty well stylistically, they figured out, oh, that was what made Zelda work.
Mm-hmm. All right, so my one that I did in January is Super Mario RPG, which is just a remake of, like, one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, and arguably my favorite RPG I've ever played, unless we're going to count Pokemon, which, for the sake of completing 12 RPGs in 12 months, I am. So
technically, it's an RPG.
It is an RPG, although as I'm playing through Scarlet right now, as of the time of recording this, it does feel more like an open world, like action adventure game. that just happens to have some turn-based combat in it. But, like, I'm still having a good time. And I think those two are just kind of setting up for the types of RPGs that I did want to play.
They were like your dip your toes in. You've played them before. You're like, let's warm myself up to the idea of playing longer RPG games.
So after this, I'm not 100% set on the order I'm going to play the rest, but one of my ideas I had for next month, while I'm kind of in this goofy, fun, childlike RPG mode, is Earthbound, because I've heard so many good things about it, and I feel like with my love for Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo and just the overall humor and style of that game, I feel like playing another Nintendo classic from the same era, even if it does have its own unique art style and like enemy design, I just think it's going to click with me. And I am actually really excited to play it because I think out of all the RPGs, it's one of the ones I've just wanted to experience the most.
Yeah, you kind of start there and then lean into it a little bit more. Earthbound made my long list of games that I was looking at. I still have yet to beat it. I think I played maybe 20 minutes, half hour way back. It's fun. But I don't have more opinion like I would on some of the other ones on the list.
Yeah, and that's where I think I want to experience it pure, natural, like from my own perspective.
Yeah.
Finally.
Exactly. And it's one of those games where you kind of know the gist of things, but it's not one that you go, oh, I know like the one big spoiler.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really think it's a game like that, but it's nice to just know that you still have the experience of like, I can go into this fresh. My next ones that we're talking about, I have, because of a great Steam sale on it, I bought the Mass Effect Trilogy Legendary Edition one. And I said, you know what, let's beat all those. So this is my like combo 3-in-1. Technically, they're all one game, but they're 3 games within. But the Mass Effect Trilogy, really great games, having a lot of fun with them. I have beat the first 2. The third one, I took a bit of a break because the graphics really change, and I was just getting a little bit burnt out of playing 50 hours of Mass Effect.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, I didn't think I could do another 50.
Got to be your March game, no other choice.
Oh, maybe. But they're fun. I like the idea that because it's all in one cartridge, it very much does feel like a continuation of a long overarching story.
And some of the dialogue will change if you've already played the previous ones, right?
Yeah, you can load up your original Shepard, and then when you load it from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3, it has little key things like you did this, you didn't do this. If you made any love interests, it kind of factors that in as well. If you've had party members die or not, that'll also be factored in. It's really interesting how they did it. I just don't know how I feel about them doing it over the course of a couple games, because I don't know if I would have been okay having a story and then having it have a clear, oh, we're doing another one and now I have to wait 2, 3 years, 4 years, however long it was between all of them. But they're really fun. They're one of the ones that I really like when you look at more Western style RPGs. And space is cool.
Space is cool.
Space is cool.
Romance options are cool.
Yeah. The next one I've got, it's a series that I like, a developer that I really love, but I just haven't been able to get into it a couple times that I've tried, and that is Dark Souls 2.
Oh.
So I have a really weird jumping in points from the FromSoft games, the Soulsborns. My first one was Demon Souls. I really like Demon Souls. And then I got Dark Souls, I played some of Dark Souls, and I didn't really like it. So I just kind of shelved it.
Anything in particular?
I think I know what it was. Demon Souls was played on PS3. I had Dark Souls on Xbox 360.
Okay.
Because soft attack versus hard attack is L1 and L2, or R1, R2, and it's bumpers and then triggers, it just felt off to me.
I mean, my first time playing was on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a grand old time,
Yeah.
but my first Dark Souls game was actually Dark Souls 2. And I don't think I would have finished it if I wasn't streaming it. So
Yeah.
that was part of what made it such a charming experience for me is it was one of those games when you're streaming just had so much interactivity with your audience.
Oh, I bet.
Mhm.
Because it's all the people, like, the Souls games are one of those ones where people are just like the, haha, get good scrub. Right? Like, they feel more empowered because they have done something that's like, wow, let's watch this, this young apprentice try to get his first time. And then it just feels really good if you beat something on the first or second try.
Yeah, that's where it's like the only FromSoft game to have come out since I stopped streaming is Elden Ring. And I know I want to play it, but I haven't even jumped on it because I don't feel like there's like that ticking time bomb of like viewer interactivity.
Yeah, in the same way that, I got to get like, this is what all the people are playing. Let's go in and let's get it. Well, strike while the iron's hot, right? Then one more for this last block of mine. It's another game that I think I have 2 copies, maybe 3. I don't remember if I have it on Steam, is Okami. And it's a game I remember my cousins, one got it for the other for Christmas one year. And he was told like, oh, it's just kind of like a Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
So it was around the time of like Twilight Princess and things like that.
I've heard that comparison thrown around a lot.
Yeah. And I've seen gameplay of it. Like I've seen playthroughs of it. They were long, long time ago. But I know I'll like it. I like the theme. I like the kind of Japanese mythology attached to it. And the idea is cool with the brush mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't decided if I'm going to play it on Wii, which seems the best way to make use of the motion of it, or just play the HD one that I have on PS4.
Do you know how they replace the brushstroke motion?
I think it's
just thumbstick control.
I think it's thumbstick control, but I don't know for sure. But one has achievements, one doesn't, so that might be enough to flip it one or the other.
All right. So my next 3 RPGs are all going to be ones that are on the Switch and are in that HD 2D style.
Yep.
So the first is Tactics Ogre Reborn. So this is one I don't know anything about the actual story, but all I know is that there is some sort of link between the gameplay of this, which went on to become like I can't remember. It's like Ogre Lotus something or other for I'll have to look that one up for Game Boy Advance, and it had the same gameplay as what Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced would kind of take over. So as far as I know, it's going to have that same sort of grid-based system and almost like a Fire Emblem sort of thing, but with a little more like verticality and like options for attack types. So I'm imagining something like Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced. I might be proven wrong. Either way, I think it's going to be just an interesting game. And when I saw it on sale, and I knew it was like an old like series that kind of got taken over by Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced in that like space of like tactical RPGs. And I kind of want to go back and see if this one's any good. And then Octopath Traveler.
Yep, really enjoyed what I've played of it. It's another one that I've dropped, sadly.
And I think I bought it when it first came out because I was like, this art style, though. Because it was like the first of those like HD 2D ones.
Yep, that had that really nice, like, oh, this is like cool. This is what like you wish some Super Nintendo games could have looked like, and then just bring it back to like, oh, this is like an RPG. It's square. It's great.
Yeah, and even though there is a lot of upcoming games in this art style, I think kind of doing that original one versus like say project like Triangle Strategy.
Yep, that was
like,
the first one I thought of.
And that's right. I think I kind of want to try this first one first because it got a lot of good things said about it, and even if there was improvements made to future ones, I do want to see where it.
Yeah, I have heard very good things about it when it first came out, I think it might have got a little bit of Breath of the Wild syndrome. Because from what I've heard is Octopath Traveler 2 is like so good as well. Like they took all the critiques of what the first game had and then just said, okay, well, we'll just get rid of those.
The thing is, as long as it's not a game that's going to drag on for hours and hours, which I am aware there's like 8 stories to play. I think one of them is as short as like 2 hours and one of them goes more like 8 hours. So
yeah.
We'll see if I do all of the content or if there's kind of like a win scenario that doesn't require all of them. But that's another one I'm excited to play, as well as Live Alive. I think it's Live Alive.
I think it's Live Alive.
And that is one that has a very similar premise to Octopath Traveler, where it's 7 different heroes, except it's an old Super Nintendo game, but it was a Japanese exclusive that never came over.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that whole idea of it's like 7 different heroes throughout time, and you kind of play through each one's story before they culminate together at the end. But it's just a much shorter game than Octopath Traveler, and I think if there's any of the ones I'm going to try after Octopath Traveler, it's the short, sweet, to the point one, you know?
Yeah, rather than let's jump, let's say it's 60 hours into another 60 hours. It's like all of a sudden that adds up real quick.
Oh, yeah, and that's where I think kind of doing those ones in a row, because I don't know how long Tactics Ogre will be. I know Octopath Traveler will be long, and I'm going to want a shorter one.
Yeah, exactly. You want to space it out a little bit. You don't want to have long into long. That's why I've got Zelda 2. So I'm like, well, eventually it's either going to be a busy month or I just want something kind of light, slow down on playing the games. My next batch, it is one that I have notoriously not enjoyed, but it was so long ago since I decided I don't really like this that I'm going to give it another try. And that is the very first Uncharted game. Right? Maybe in an ideal world, it makes me go, oh, you know what? There's something there. And then I'll play the other ones. But I didn't like the combat. I thought the combat was really janky. And I come from a world where I enjoy like the Assassin's Creed games for the exploration aspects of like the Ezio collection, or the newer Tomb Raider games for the same kind of reason. Where like there's combat, but it's not as much of a focal point. But it also doesn't take away. I felt when I played the first Uncharted game, this must be back in probably 15 years ago at this point. It didn't capture me, and instead of getting me more immersed and invested, it just kind of took away. It's like, well, I just want to go explore this place, and now I have to deal with people shooting at me. I don't really want to.
And I think that's a sentiment I've heard a lot before, is just the combat in Uncharted kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah. Because, like, just let me raid the tombs. It's kind of how I feel. Like, I don't know if it's 2. I think it's 2 that of Assassin's Creed that just has all the tombs that you can explore.
I haven't played Assassin's Creed 2, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's 2 or it's Brotherhood. There's like little underground tombs that you can explore, and that's like my favorite part of most of those games, is just little puzzles of building it up and setting it out. It's great, and I think I just kind of wanted something like that around that time, and then I just didn't get that, so I just went, this game I don't really like.
But you said you have played Uncharted 4?
Yeah, and I really liked it until combat. And then I went, I don't really care about this, and then I turned it off.
Interesting. Like, I think Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4 are some of my favorite games I've ever played. But 3 was like, it was also really good and so many great set pieces, but having just played 2, I was like, it kind of feels like more of the same, but trying to play 1 again, it does feel very stiff and stunted.
Yeah, I'm wondering if now that I'm taking it from a little bit more of a, let's see what this game begot, right? Like, let's see what other games took inspiration from this game in order to go. Because if I play this game and I see those elements of the newer Tomb Raider games or what I really enjoyed about Assassin's Creed, it just might help me out a little bit.
Those are, I think, keeping in mind that Uncharted was one of those trend setters, not followers.
Exactly.
Really helps you remember that it is trying to kind of breach into this like storytelling kind of genre while keeping it like there's puzzles and tombs, but also a big bad enemy with lots of minions to try and fight off. And it's like almost too ambitious for.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if I should just put it on easy mode.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Make use of that functionality now that I'm older and I go, I don't really care if the game beats me. Because then that way I just might get more enjoyment of the exploration. Because that's what I really like with a lot of games like that. But then the next one that we've got is a game that I played a bunch with my brother. We would swap controllers off growing up. And we never beat it. And I don't know if we were just bad or just, little kids' minds and we just wanted to go play other Nintendo games. That's I Ninja. We had it for GameCube, and that's just a little part platformer, part little slasher game where you're a ninja and you have to kill a bunch of bad ninjas. It's very much I don't want to say kind of like a Shrek 2, but it's kind of like that fun third party. Is it
But it's not a licensed property, is it?
No, it's not a licensed property. It's just like a ninja game.
Cool.
Yeah. But it's ones where you get little upgrades. And the one that I always remember is there's one that you just slash down on something and they split in two. There's no blood or anything. They just kind of and then that's it. I always found that really funny.
Just absolutely decimate your enemies by splitting them in half.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's one of my
rated E for everyone.
Yep. It's and it's one of my games that I go, and I had made this mistake last year when I said, you know what? I kind of want to play Sonic Adventure again. Sonic Adventure DX. I liked that game growing up, and then I just didn't enjoy it. So that could be the case here. And if it's not, maybe it's the next game that I'm talking about on that Sonic note, which is Sonic Heroes. Copy paste. I liked the Sonic games. I liked the 3D ones growing up. And I'm apparently on a quest to ruin all of that for me.
I literally don't even know what Sonic Heroes is. I know what it is. I just is it a 3D platformer? Is it?
So it is, if you've ever played Sonic Adventure 2,
mm-hmm.
right? And you have the Sonic levels, but there's a little bit of jumping and everything like that, right? It's not just speed. That's kind of what Heroes is, but there's groups of 3.
I was going to say, is that the one where you're always as a group of 3?
Yes.
Okay.
So your Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and then there are specific areas that are Sonic is best, Tails is best, Knuckles is best. It's fly, power, and speed. Because I think the options in each of the 4 teams are that. But I don't remember enough about it to go much beyond, other than I had fun with it, but it might also be those janky Sonic graphics of the GameCube era before we get to Sonic 06 and it just all explodes.
It all just explodes, but there's it's either awful or good enough.
Yeah, maybe it's bad good. That's what I'm looking for at this point.
I feel like I would put it into the good enough. When I think of Sonic Adventure, I'm those ones are good enough to play again.
They'll be a good 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to move on to 3 more RPGs, and I did just look it up. Tactics Ogre Reborn is the second in the Ogre Battle series. And so another one that I wanted to do was actually in the Ogre Battle series and called Ogre Battle, which is the Super Nintendo one that I have had literally since I was 18. And that is Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Person of Lordly Caliber on Nintendo 64. It's one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games and another one of my favorite RPGs I have played. So I thought between Tactics Ogre, which is the second in the series, but has more of that Final Fantasy Tactics gameplay, Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, on the other hand, has that Nintendo 64 version, the Person of Lordly Caliber gameplay, where it's you make a unit, pick whether you want guys in the front or back, and they might have different types of attacks, or say somebody who's a magician might use a fire spell if they're in the front row, but they might use a healing spell if they're in the back row.
Oh, that's really cool.
And when you go into battle, the actual way that your characters collide will determine
like positioning
the
and
positioning.
where they are. Oh, that's neat. I
So
like that.
if like you have a big dragon in your front row that will attack 3 times if he's in the front, but will only do like one big electric attack if he's in the back, and you get ambushed by somebody and now he's in the back, and so all of your guys that were being protected by the dragon are now vulnerable while your dragon only gets one attack. So it's like you have to be careful about how units are like running into each other, and it's a lot of fun. I'll go into more depth about why I love the Nintendo 64 version of gameplay at some other point. But that is one, because I'll have played a prior game in the series and a later game in the series. I kind of want to just round out all the ones I do own and kind of cross that one off my list, because it's been one that I've wanted to play since I first picked it up, right after having played Person of Lordly Caliber. And I'm like, I want to give this one a shot as well. Might as well put it on that list.
Heck, you sold me on it.
And then when we're talking about Super Nintendo, I did want to at least do one of my Final Fantasies I have on there. And I have 2 and 3. I think it was...
So that's going to be 4 and 6.
4 and 6 that are like the
actual ones.
But in terms of being a North American here and having Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, it's actually, is that? 2, 4, and
1, 2, and 3 will be 1, 4, and 6.
1, 4, and 6. Yeah. So either way, North American 3 is what I'm going with, and I believe it was you who recommended that over.
Yeah, that is one of my top games that I played last year. It's probably my second favorite Final Fantasy. Now, keep in mind, I am someone who has only played things pre-7. I've never played 7 or beyond, other than little Final Fantasy side games. So, like, I've had 12 Revenant Wings, and I've had Final Fantasy Ring of Fates, which are both like smaller ones that are more akin to the OG Final Fantasy and less of the other ones. But I prefer 6 over 4 because I like the story a little bit better. I never liked the idea in 4 of losing the characters, especially on a first playthrough when you don't know when those are going to happen. You just feel like you've put a lot of effort into training things, and then all of a sudden they're gone. You're like, oh, I lost all the good equipment. I lost all this and that. It might be a little bit better now that you have guides or game FAQs, something like that, where you can go, okay, this person's dying soon or leaving the party soon, so let's just switch it out and let's put everything in.
And then something we talked about when we were talking about Fire Emblem, and how you having that prior knowledge of party members leaving and like making sure to take their equipment off before really improved
the general aspect of it, and just knowing what's happening next. But if you're going in blind for a first playthrough, I think 6 is the better one for it.
Fair enough. Because
there's a whole party for it. You get to choose your own people, and you can mix and match them.
And another older game that I might actually do the remaster that's coming out this year is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door.
Yep.
And that is just one where, irregardless of my disdain for RPGs of the past, I know I like Mario RPGs. I like the Mario and Luigi series. I've played most of them. For some reason, I just have never played the Paper Marios. And
not even the N64?
Maybe more than half of it.
Okay.
But never fully. And then Super Paper Mario on Wii, which really is where they kind of deviated from the Mario and Luigi series. But I played a good amount of it, but never all the way through. I've never touched Thousand-Year Door.
I've played maybe half of it. I really like it. There's some really cool points in that game.
And I have one friend where they probably absolutely lost their pants hearing that a remaster was coming for it. Whereas for me, it was the Super Mario RPG remaster. Where I'm like, oh my God, yes. And they probably had the same thought when Thousand-Year Door came out. When I was streaming, they tried to convince me to do it so many times. And I was always like, if it wasn't going to take me like 2 months to play through it, then sure. But I think I do want to sit down and actually give it a shot, because I know I'm going to like it. Just like Earthbound, just like ogre battle. Like a lot of these come down to RPGs that are on my list because I know without having to even try them that I'm going to like them.
Yeah, they really, it's Mario. It's great. Most Marios are great. We've got our last block here. I'm going to start one that's kind of topical. I made this list, I think right at the end of December 2023. But with the recent news that they're coming out with another one, the first Endless Ocean that I want to get through is kind of a neat little, tie a bow on it, kind of start that journey.
Yeah, and like literally the day we're recording this is when they had their partner showcase that revealed a new Endless Ocean.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's what you'd mentioned just before we started this. It's like, oh, you see the new one. I was like, no. Which that's exciting, but that just means I have two of them to get through before the third one. But it just seems like such a good, cozy game to just like sit and relax for an hour or so, find some fish, and then do it again.
Have you ever actually played it?
No.
Oh, okay. See, like I have played through the main story, and yeah, like it is not an edge of your seat gaming experience, but some of those moments where you're like, exploring into the abyss for the first time and you really don't know what to expect. Like, nothing's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So it's not like a fear. It's just like
it's tense.
Like I am in pitch black. I legitimately don't know what's going to be down here. And it's just like, it's cool to explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've gotten to like more, I don't know if I'd want to call it a walking sim, but I do have a nice appreciation for games like that, like Abzu or Firewatch. I do quite like those games. So something that gives me that also gives me fish and hopefully some kind of fish facts are also just kind of cool. Make me feel like a little ichneologist.
All right, get ready for all the bicolored parrotfish, though. Holy crap, those things are everywhere. And every time you try and pet some small thing in the sand, I swear, one of those parrotfish just gets in your field of view.
Hey, remember me? Then I've got one that we actually started last year, I think it was. We did, I think, just one day of it. We got an okay amount in, but I do want to finish it, and that is Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's just a good one. What we've kind of done, because Zack's got great amount of knowledge with it, and I don't, is I just get to play in the second player seat. I get to be the younger brother, where the big brother goes and just like beats everything, and I go, I helped.
So, and if you didn't know this, it's because there's actually a cheat code you can put in that allows you to play through the main single player campaign, but all the races are two players. So like, the first player is driving around the island and like doing the challenges against like the elephant guy, but every single one of the races you can do two player. And as long as one of the players collects all the silver coins and finishes in first, it'll say that like you get the balloon for beating the stage.
So I just get to go and fail a bunch, and then it doesn't matter. And then I feel like I get through the game anyways. It's great.
And that's where it's like, I feel like that's a better way to enjoy it now, because part of why I really love it is I spent the hours upon hours learning and mastering and memorizing.
Exactly. So it's kind of you kill two birds with one stone. You get another good playthrough through it. You get to show someone else, and then I get to cross it off my list. And then the final one I've gotten to, one that I'm excited to play, but after seeing some comments online on some threads about like disappointing aspects of games, I'm not as enthused, is Assassin's Creed 4. So that is Black Flag. That is
literally your last three that you're rounding it out here. You're just hitting like, boom, like three of my favorite games, man.
Yeah. So Black Flag is the one, as most people know, is like the pirate one. And I was reading a thread on like aspects of some games that people don't enjoy. And people really don't like the outside the Animus aspects of the Assassin's Creed games.
Oh yeah, like that's absolute dog water, but
yeah, and apparently 4 is just really bad for it.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't hate the Animus aspects as much as many people did, so I might be okay with it. But it's all going to come down to, do I like it better than 3? Because I really liked all the Assassin's Creed games, and then I just couldn't get into 3. And I think that was just maybe just to Assassin's Creed it out by that point.
I see. 3 was the first one I played. I've never played 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
3 was the first one I played, and I was like, this is pretty dang cool. 4 was the one where I was like, oh, this is Assassin's Creed.
See, and I have the opposite where I played the first one. I really liked the first one. Played the second one and all of the Ezio ones thereafter and go, okay, this is great. Because I also liked just wandering around, getting all of the information triggers, and then sitting and reading it all. So I was like, cool, I just get to learn about Renaissance Italy and little aspects on things like that and all the worlds going on around that, things with the Medici family and getting into Vatican and all that kind of stuff.
And you didn't care as much about American history?
No.
And like the Boston Tea Party?
It just felt empty, right? Because you're going from Italy, which is very like taller buildings to scale, to colonial US, which is just like because it's not as built up. It just didn't have the same kind of feel. I mean, if I probably go back to 3, I'll probably enjoy it because I just have a better understanding now of how I want to play through games.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I think I was trying to 100% it as well.
Well, that's right. I think what I liked about 4 is that it's not trying to be just another like climb everything in sight. It was more like a precursor to like the modern day Assassin's Creeds where it's like emphasis is on the story and exploring the worlds, and the climbing is just sort of like because you're an assassin. Anyway, I got 3 more to get through. And these are 3 that are just ones, again, I know I'm going to enjoy them. I just haven't sat down and given them the time. The first one is The Witcher 3, which I know is an amazing RPG game. I'm looking forward to playing through it. I just have not sat down and given it the time because I know a lot of estimates are in like close to 100 hours, even if you're not going to 100% it, just if you want to see most of the content. So I've been putting it off. Gonna not put it off. Hopefully over the summer or something when I don't have a bunch of assignments and school to worry about. Another one that I would really like to dive into that I know is going to, again, be like close to 100 hours is Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yep.
I love the first Xenoblade. Love the second Xenoblade. Everything I've seen about 3, I think is going to absolutely tickle my fancy. And I'm excited to see how this like trilogy of games ends. And I don't want to like spoil too much of what happens in the first 2, but I know there's some level of interaction between the heroes in 3 and like the previous 2 games. So I think having that knowledge of those 2 and just enjoying that RPG series means 3 is going to be one where I'm going to have a grand old time playing it. Just got to put in the hours.
Yeah. And it's hard when you get the dopamine hit from completing a game or going, yeah, this game, you know what? I've had enough with it. I've seen what I want to see. And then just having to go, okay, well, I got one game in 100 hours. It's like, I just hope it's worth it. And from what I've heard of them, that should be the case. Xenoblade Chronicles, I know, is one of the best RPG games, at least of the last 10 or so years. And Witcher 3 apparently solved a lot of the issues people had with side quests, where a lot of it is just like do X, get Y, and you're just kind of doing the same thing all the time. Apparently there's really good and really well thought out story beats to it.
And the last game that I wanted to play at some point this year is a Rune Factory game. I have 4 on the 3DS, and then I also have 3 revisited, remastered, whatever it's called, on the Switch. And I don't know which one I'm going to play. I was leaning a bit more towards 4 because I've had that one for a long time. Like I got that when it first came out. So even though I think the one on Switch will probably play nicer, it might just be good to
cross that off.
Cross the one off that's been on my list for, I don't even know when it came out, probably close to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But those ones, rather than being like traditional Harvest Moon type games, take Harvest Moon and turn them into RPGs.
Okay.
So you have a bunch of stats that you can level up. And what originally drew me to it is I saw a lot of the stats you could train remind me of RuneScape. And I love me some RuneScape. So seeing a Harvest Moon game where you essentially could train your combat, train your fishing, your cooking, your like wood cutting, your like beast taming, things like that. And just seeing it done, like it's like a Harvest Moon style graphics, but being able to like go out into dungeons and fight monsters rather than just like do your crops and herbs. And rather than be like seasonally or financially limiting, it's once you get to like level 7 or 8 farming, you can now plant a new type of herb that has more benefits for like making food, so that you can have a better strength upgrade when you go into fight, and like you can mine better ores to make better swords and shields. So I really think Harvest Moon is a chill out and relax kind of game, but Rune Factory
might be a little bit more.
It is more the pace I want in my Harvest Moon game, and honestly, out of any of the RPGs I've talked about, would be like if I could design an RPG for me.
Might be something like that.
It sounds like this is kind of what I want in an RPG, so I saved it for last, not because it's the greatest game that I'm going to talk about today, but because it's probably the one that I want to play the most.
Yeah. And one that you hope is like your favorite the most.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot. I've never played any of the Rune Factory games, but from what you're explaining, I would probably really like them. I played one years ago called Reciteer. And it kind of gives me the same feel, only instead of the Harvest Moon aspects with the farming and all that, you are a shopkeep. And to get items for your shop, you have to go into the dungeon out back, the big cave system, and go and kill creatures and get their materials and find items in there. And then when you're done with that, you come back and then you sell all the items. So that kind of gives me the same kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. And I think compared to something like RuneScape, where it is about the grind, this one is more about just getting a few levels up so you can progress in the story, you know.
While still being like, seems like chill enough that you can just like play this while having something on.
Yeah, like if you literally just want to spend a day fishing, you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Because I have played a little bit of the very first one on DS, but I never finished the story, and I'm excited to see just like the new improvements that have been made by the third and fourth ones.
And it seems like the kind of game where it's like, I don't have to play the first 3 to understand the fourth, or I don't have to play the first 2 to understand the third, right?
Each one, it's like a different Harvest Moon world where each one is a lot of the same ideas, but like new people and like new shops and everything, even if they're the same goods being sold, as like new characters that don't have anything to do with like the people in the last game whatsoever.
Okay, yeah, it's like an extra it's kind of like a Pokemon way, right, where you're like, this is the same kind of thing but kind of different, and it's all different people,
like a different region, different characters. Anyway,
cool. So that's what when we talk about our 12 and 12s for this year, at least, that's kind of what we're talking about. And then we'll have some other games on top of it, right? So like, you know, if I'm planning on playing Zelda 2, that's not going to take up my whole month. And then I go, well, guess that's it for video
games. Unless you try to do it on actual hardware.
Exactly. Then that might take me a couple months.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Thunderbird can go suck it.
But that's kind of the gist. And then if we have anything else where we're talking backlog, this is kind of our process for it. We'll maybe do a couple more episodes kind of going about how we tackle the backlog, navigate it, how we sort it out, things like that.
Because obviously there's a lot more RPGs that I own and ones that I'm not as excited to play. So if you hear the list of RPGs that I've talked about and you're like, oh, there's more that I know Zack would like here, please feel free to let me know.
Yes, yeah. And any type of game recommendations as well. We are psychopaths and we like collecting the games that we think we'll enjoy, and we want to play all of them.
Exactly. Psychopaths.
Yeah. That's what they call psychopaths, right?
Yes. The psychopaths that have like almost 1,000 games each to play.
Yep.
and still buy more than we ever play.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the main goal for this year is I want to beat more games than I buy.
And I want to cross off some of those longer games.
Yes.
That's my main goals, because I've done all right, just like knocking off quick ones, but it's because I keep putting off those RPGs.
Yep. Yeah. You sit down and you go, you know what? I'll play this pinball game. That's 2 hours. Done that. Cross off. But that's all we got for you today. Next time, who knows? Probably Rareware.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Have a good one.